What up, what up, what up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Andersen. Let's get into it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Andersen. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Today's the Day. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Today's the Day. Much love to everybody. Today's the day. I'm really excited to talk about what we have to talk about today, and I have some exciting news that I can't wait to go over with you guys as well. What we're going to talk about today is a principle that's changed my life over the last decade. It's helped me go and do a lot of things that I really initially growing up and in high school didn't think I was ever capable of achieving. And that principle is goal setting. Goal setting is so special and so unique because a lot of people talk about it and very few people understand it in depth or have a way to really go and implement it into their life. Goal setting, kind of the point of it, and I'll go and tell you guys some stories that have shown through my own life with goal setting. What goal setting does, it makes you acutely aware of exactly what you want to go and get out of life. That's the most important thing. You, at some point, go and realize this is what I want to do. And then you're able to actually go and achieve it. So I dive into it in depth with Casey Ball in one of my episodes from this month. So if you haven't listened to that episode, make sure you go and tune in. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit here with you guys today as well. As far as goal setting goes, there's a right way and a wrong way to go and set a goal. You want to get extremely clear with what you want, and you want to go have a very clear path to achieving that as well. But most importantly, you want to go and embody your goals to the point that when you're not thinking about them, you're thinking about them. And I have a really cool way of doing that I was taught by Casey Baugh that I'm going to dive into, that I'm going to share with you guys. But before any of that, my goal setting journey, I guess you could call it, in life started when I was younger. It started when I was 15 years old in high school. I had never really thought about goal setting. I had always gone and said I want to do things, right? I had always said I want to go and accomplish A, B, and C, but I had never really looked into what setting a good goal looks like. Like, how do you go and set a goal the proper way? And I never really took it as serious as it could be until Casey Baugh came around. When I started working for Casey Baugh, he had me go and implement a daily practice, or a ritual, if you may, that completely changed my life. And I owe a lot of what I've done to this ritual. It's called Top 10. What Top 10 is every single day you open up your notes, your booklet, whatever it may be, and you write down your top 10 goals in life. You don't go and reflect on that the next day, all right? You write it down, you leave it, and you forget it. The next day, you do the exact same thing without looking. And what that does, it makes it so you don't just go and get in the habit of copying what you put on the paper the day before, but you actually have to go and think about what your top 10 goals are. The weirdest part about this practice was the first couple weeks of doing it, it was difficult to think of 10 goals, which is crazy. Like, it shouldn't be hard to think of 10 things you want to get out of life. But for me, it was difficult to think of 10 goals for the first couple weeks of doing it. After repeating this process over and over and over and over, it may seem mundane or sound so simple that it can't be that impactful. But what you're doing is you're completely rewiring your subconscious brain to go and achieve those things that you want. Meaning that brain that's thinking when you're not consciously thinking about something, that voice in your head that's always there no matter what, is now hyper-focused on the 10 things you want out of life more than anything else. So when a decision comes up, right, that you may not have time to consciously think about, you go and you make the correct decision that's in alignment with the goals that you have, right? It's very simple. Your subconscious brain controls 80% of your life. Tying your shoes, brushing your teeth, driving your car, sending the text, whatever it may be. So if you can train your subconscious mind to go and act in alignment with your goals and what you want to get out of life, you go and you dominate. It's a superpower, if you will. I owe a lot of what little success I have, I owe a lot of that to this simple ritual and practice that I still do to this day. And I don't think a lot of people that are in a spot of success or who have achieved things or who are living fulfilled lives would be doing that if they weren't very clear about what they wanted, they weren't very clear about how they were going to get there, and they weren't thinking about it constantly every single day in their conscious and subconscious mind. So what I'm really, really excited to announce today, I think it's going to be one of the coolest things I've ever done. I think one of the most beneficial things for others and myself that I've ever done. Me in the studio, we've gone and created what we're going to call the Top 10 booklet. And what this is exactly how I just explained the top 10 to you. It gives you a very simple way to go and implement this into your own life, where every day there's going to be a section to write down your top 10, right? There's going to obviously be a journaling section as well. And then every week you're going to be able to go and weekly plan or create an identity, exactly how Casey Baugh talks about in the episode that we just went and filmed. So I highly encourage anybody who is wanting to go and achieve more, or wanting to go and implement these things we talk about, or they think it's a cool idea but aren't really sure, go and do this. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, if you go and you get in the ritual of doing this, and all this booklet's going to do for you is make it very simple to remember, very easy to go back and reflect on. If you can get into the habit of doing this, you will be blown away by the things that you go and accomplish within the next X amount of time, right? Go and train your subconscious brain to aim for those targets and crush that out of the park every single time. Something that was really cool with me when I started doing top 10, I remember very, very clearly one day, Casey would have me send my top 10 to him. And the mentor that he is, he would go and he'd read them and review them and everything. And when I started, I used to write down these goals that I thought were huge. I could never dream of accomplishing. And I would write down something along the lines of make X amount by this age, right? And I remember I went and I made one of my first times doing top 10, I wrote down make 6 figures by 25. I sent it to Casey. He responded immediately and he said, yo. He's like, 25. He's like, come on, like think bigger. You got that. So me then kind of reevaluating and thinking from his point of view, I'm like, okay, like do it by 21. At this point, I was 18 years old, right? Do it by 21 years old. And I had no idea how I was going to go and do it. I didn't even have full belief that I could do it, but I started writing that down every single day. And within 1 year, I had gone and knocked that off the list, which is crazy. It's mind boggling. That's one of many stories of different things that I would put on top 10 that within 5 years were crushed off the list. And now going back and reviewing them, they seem so small and so little, but at the time they were everything. Like those goals were preposterous. They were huge. They were terrifying. And now looking back, I'm like, dang, I could have gone way bigger and I could go way bigger. And now writing my top 10, they scare me still and they still seem impossible. But I know for a fact, if I just go and follow the steps that I know how to do, I'll go and check them off the list as well. So make sure you guys go check out the top 10 journal. I think you guys will love this thing. It could absolutely very well change your life as it has mine. So I encourage anyone strongly to go check it out and look into it. And then for anyone else wanting to learn more about the importance of goal setting, because I think a big part of wanting to go and write down goals or believing in goal setting enough to go and take the time to write it down every day and buy a booklet to write down your goals. A very influential book called Goals by Brian Tracy completely changed the way that I looked at goal setting. It really went in depth and explained to me that not only are goals how you go and achieve things, but also how you get the most fulfillment out of life. Goals are where you go and you can start working towards something that's going to bring you happiness. A quote that's really cool from that book that stood out to me more than anything when I read it years ago was, happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Basically what that means to me is you find happiness when you're working towards something that you know is worthy, that you know you want, and that you know you should be working towards, and realizing that you're progressing towards it. So I think the most important part of all of that is knowing what you want, identifying it, writing it down, and then tracking your progress towards it. So make sure you go check out Top 10. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you.
Now for the best 3 clips from this month.
So Top 10, the principle behind it is you are the author of your future. That things have 2 creations. You have a spiritual creation, then you have a physical creation. And so the spiritual creation is dreaming up the dream. And then the physical creation is going and doing the work to make that dream reality. But it makes so much sense, like when you think about architecture. Like think about just like grabbing a ton of materials and just going out and trying to build like a skyscraper in New York. And it's like, that just seems so asinine. You would never do that. You would go, work with an engineer, and you would work with an architect, and you would build this perfect plan down to the screws.
Yeah.
Before you physically went out and organized the metal and the workers and everybody to go build that building. And if you build the plan right, you're going to get a beautiful building. And it's the same thing with our life. If you can go build, like, so much of success in life is actually identifying what you want and having an opinion. And, with art or with life, it's an art and it's a science. The science is like, these are the fundamentals, these are the habits, these are the rituals that you have to do. A equals B, A plus B equals C every single time. It's like the law of gravity, and there's some of the stuff that's just a science.
Yeah.
But the art side is that all of us are different, and all of us are lit up by different things, and all of us have different passions and purposes. And that's where you kind of have to go identify what matters to me. And so many people never go through that process of actually saying, this matters to me. This is something I want. Either they're scared to say it, or they just haven't spent the time. And so the top 10, it's a simple ritual that I did every day for a lot of years. And, when I say I don't do it, I'll do it, once a week or something. But I did it every day, sometimes twice a day for a lot of years. And basically what it is you just list the 10 biggest goals in your life from scratch. So you never reference the previous day, list them out, and then I erase them.
Yep.
And the whole point is if somebody wakes you up at 2 a.m., you should be able to list these things. And when you get to that point, they're seared into your subconscious brain. And that's when, like, the world starts moving to make magic happen for you, because just when you're not thinking, you're thinking about these things.
Yeah.
And so, when I hit one of those top 10, I would just replace it with a new top 10. And so it's this principle of, like, always having stuff that fires you up, that gets you going. So I'll tell you what I'm doing now. I'll wake up and I'll meditate. I have a specific ritual that I'll do every morning. It's Tony Robbins meditation.
The priming?
Yep. I'll do it every morning. And then I'll do 3 questions. And I started off with 10 answers. Now I'm at like 60.
Per question.
I'm 60, 30, 30. And I'll rotate through a number of questions. But the first one is, who am I? And it sounds so simple. It sounds like the most simple, but it's actually the most profound. We act according to the way that we see ourselves. We will not, the way that you dress today is that somewhere along the line you decided, this is who I am.
Tony Robbins says the most powerful force in a human being is acting in alignment with their identity.
Yeah, and whether it's your religion, if I'm a conservative person or if I'm a liberal person, yeah, I'm smart or I'm dumb, I'm handsome or I'm not, and like we have these beliefs and we have these things that we get when we're little kids, and they screw us up really bad. We have these self-limiting beliefs that if you don't go root them out, almost like weeds in the garden, that they'll end up impeding the what you do in life. And so on a daily basis, I will list from scratch my identity, who I am. And it started off with 10 answers, and now it's 60. And it's amazing how just doing this from scratch, just like you would do the top 10,
you get to create your identity.
I'm rewriting my software.
Yeah.
I'm saying, when I'm not thinking, this is what I'm thinking.
When you went on Shark Tank, then Forbes went and released the article on you, specific parts of that. Like, you went and talked about when you were able to go and pay off your parents' mortgage, which was really sick. Because, again, growing up, like, we hung out at your house quite a bit.
Yeah.
I was always at your house. Your parents were giving us coins to go and buy treats from the gas station. Yeah. And, like, that was really cool because I never really read that in depth or understood that. How was that experience?
That was, like, the most humbling, grateful experience I've ever had. Like, yeah, I'm super grateful for my parents. They've been through a lot. They've, like, always been supportive to me. And, yeah, you just, want to, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, money's just an interesting thing. Like, growing up, it's obviously not the answer to everything, but it does, like, cause stress on people. And, yeah, with, like, health struggles and stuff, it's hard to see that, I guess. And so I was just really, like, I just remember, like, leaving the bank that day, and I'd gone to, like, probably 5 different Wells Fargos, just like trying to get a banker who would give me information, and none of them would. And I'm like, why? Like, why won't you let me do this? Like, I'm giving you money. And
they're like, who the hell is this kid? And
yeah,
why is he trying to
like,
pay off
I
a
need
mortgage?
to pay this. They're like, do you have this number? And I'm like, no. So I went and dug through my parents' mail and like still couldn't find the number. And finally I walked in with Savannah Vincent's dad, Steve, because he's a realtor.
Yeah.
And he's like this big like guy, and he's just like, I don't understand why you guys won't help him out. Like, and the guy was like, okay, fine, whatever. And they wouldn't even tell me how much was left on it. So I was like, I don't know
how
have
much
an
to
idea,
pay.
but I don't know like what to pay. And the guy was kind of like, oh, I think this amount would be good, and like winked at me, and I was like, okay. And
That's awesome.
yeah, I remember like driving away from there, and I was just like, whoa, it was a week before I filmed, I think. And I was like, I never, ever would have thought like that spoon that I stole. Sorry, frick, I was not. You got me.
You're good. My bad. My bad.
I never thought the spoon that I stole from my mom's house like would one day be able to pay off that house that the spoon came from. Like that was crazy to me. And I was just like, whoa, like I don't even believe, like, what is life is crazy.
Yeah. Dude,
But
yeah.
Sorry. Ooh.
No, you're good. I love it, man. Like that's the good stuff. And like that's the part where a lot of people go and they have like a lot of people have goals or aspirations or whatever it may be. At the end of the day, like that's the good stuff. Like that feeling is probably tenfold what you got out of Shark Tank, even though that was like your pinnacle of business success, right? 1,000%. So I think in hearing that, a lot of people hear that and it's kind of overwhelming. It's like, okay, like where do you start? And I think a lot of people have the idea of like, oh, it's a really good idea to go and be productive and listen to these things or read these things. What, in your opinion, first 3 books, start with these, that'll get you going the right direction, and then the rest will fall into place? Because that's what I found is once you get going in the right direction, stuff just kind of compiles. Like it starts happening for you in a really weird way. But what would be those first 3?
The first book, 100%, would be As a Man Thinketh, because you can read it in 45 minutes, and it's completely, I don't know of a book more profound than that book. I went back and, we adopted a couple of these little kids over the last 3 years. And we're always in this situation of how do you give to the birth mom without creating entitlement and enabling,
like crippling her
dependence. Yep. Yeah. And so something we came up with is, well, let's do the book club, except let's pay $1,000 a book. Let's actually like give some homework and put the incentive big enough that it's like they can get it anytime they want to get it. They just have to go do some work.
Yeah.
And one of the birth moms, her name's Brianna, Texas mom. She reads this book and she's giving us the book report, and I'm just like, it's like my ears are on fire. I'm like, that's incredible. And I'm like, I've read this book 100 times.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm hearing it for the first time. And so, that for sure is like, if you read that book and implement it, it'll change your life. It's just about, men are eager to change their circumstance, but they're unwilling to change themselves.
Yeah.
So they remain bound. And that's kind of like, that's life. We want the outcome without changing personally, so we don't get the outcome. And, on and on and on, just gems like that. The second one that, if you want to be wealthy, if you care about being financially independent, which I have so many views on that, but I just think, money is a magnifier to make you more of what you are. And if you have a lot of money, you're going to be more of what you are. If you, want sex, drugs, and rock and roll, you're going to have more of those 3 things. But if you want to go make a dent on the world, you'll actually have a much bigger platform to go do good in the world. And so money's not good or bad. It just allows you to be more of what you are.
Yeah.
But there's laws with money. And if you understand, apply the laws, you'll be wealthy. And if you don't, you won't. And most people aren't, because the tax system is built to not make you wealthy. It's built to actually like redistribute cash back to everybody else. And so the second one is just the mindset of wealth. And so I do Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's, 70 or 80-year-old book, super profound. And then the last one, if I was saying, hey, you've got one book, it'd be 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Just live life based off that.
Yeah, it's like the Bible of like effectiveness. You basically have 3 categories of maturity. You've got dependence, which is, you need your parents to cover your bills to get through the day, or you need the government to cover your bills to get through life. And, as long as you're dependent, you don't control your own destiny. If you're dependent on the whims and the, charity of others.
Mm-hmm.
And then there comes a time in our lives, hopefully, where we become economically self-reliant. And there's this guy named Nitin Nori, who's the dean of the Harvard Business School, and he was talking about capitalism. He was doing a podcast with Goldman Sachs. He was talking about capitalism, and he's like, people will say what they want to say about capitalism, but over the last 30 years, there's been over 1 billion people that have gone from poverty to middle class, over 1 billion. And it's because of capitalism. And he said the truest form of dignity that you can give to another human being is to teach them to be economically self-reliant. And so once somebody can pay their own bills and they've got a skill that they can, get by in the world without their mom, without their dad, without the government, without charity, there's a level of pride and a level of confidence. And you see this all the time in your job. This was the spiritual side of doing door-to-door sales, was seeing somebody like you that when we first met, you're dependent on your parents and on just kind of, you're still a kid.
Yeah.
And then something switches where all of a sudden you get a skill and you never go back. And it's like you took the blue pill and you just never see the world the same. And this pride that you have that I don't need to ask from anybody else, that I'm independent.
Yeah.
And
it's a sense of control. It's a sense of like, you learn to understand that you can make excuses and people might buy them, but at the end of the day, everything that's happening to you is happening because of you.
It's a sense of pride. Like you can look yourself in the mirror and be proud. You can, square up your shoulders and it's dignity. And, and that's what, Nitin Nori said. He said the truest form of dignity that you can give to another person is to teach them to be economically self-reliant. But then there's a third level of maturity, which is interdependence, which means not only do you have enough to take care of yourself, that you can take care of others and you can give back to the community and you can give back to society. When stuff breaks down, it's when you have somebody that's dependent, whether emotionally dependent or financially dependent, that is with somebody that's, when you have 2 people that are dependent and try to be together, it's just chaos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you play off each other's insecurities and weaknesses, and it's toxic. But when you have 2 people that are independent that choose to be interdependent, that's where the magic happens. But you have to be independent before you can choose to be interdependent.
100%.
Anyway, so that's that third book, and that's
7 Habits.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. As always, it was a blast for me. I hope you got something out of this. If you got something out of this video of value, share this with a friend, and please go show your love. We're on all streaming platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Any ratings, comments, likes, shares, they go a very long way, and they make it so I can keep doing these things for you, and I would appreciate it greatly. So please go share with a friend. Until next time.